Howdy, folks. So I am heading home for my work day. So this is kind of like a heavy topic, and I guess someone out there needs to hear it, and someone needs to realize they are not alone. I really wanted to share this message about addiction and how beautiful souls are usually the victim of addiction. And I'm gonna take off my beanie because that seemed too creepy. How does the gene in your body find this satisfaction with addiction? And what I received as a message, and I'm always very honest with everybody that this was in my life too. I never understood why that timeline crossed me a couple times, why I'm still haunted, why I still have to cleanse and detox and fight, these spiritual attacks that try to force me into that timeline again. But all I can really assure people is that when people channel or they try to read me or try to get psychic on me, you're going to see the dark side. And the dark side is really what the enemy wants people to understand so that they can stop following the light. And that's usually what happens with addiction part 1. When there's a calling on someone's life or their soul has a contract and a purpose, sometimes that contract can get hijacked and it gets rewritten, which sometimes we call possession. If someone's possessed, spiritually possessed. A lot of us resonate with demon possession too, because we realize that came from the church. It's fascinating because nowhere else came up with that name, just the church. So obviously a system has taught people, if you join our belief system and you contract yourself and give your free will to us, the real spiritual community, you have a potential case of being possessed by the deity that we deal with. That's the duality. That is the dogmatic system. But when you choose to say, look, I just want to be a soul, I have my spirit, I know there's a creator, I would love to learn everything there is to learn about, religions and spiritualities, and like Hinduism and Buddhism are very beautiful too. Everything's so poetic. And a lot of times we miss out on the retrospect and the, what's the word I'm looking for? It starts with a D. The dynamics of how in depth the soul journey, how much has really implanted the earth so that truth can emerge. And you're seeing that everything is combining and collaborating now. Like we're seeing a whole, everything's starting to come together, that's what's a beautiful thing. I'm watching how everyone's practice and everyone's truth is finally coming together. It's all becoming oneness. I always tell everybody, it's all a oneness. There isn't your journey and your journey and their journey and their journey. And it's not just your religion, their religion, their religion, their religion. It's everything has a truth. So going back to topic addiction, I had a story where there was a family member who, had a very hard case of doing drugs and alcohol, and they had a mental condition of touching people. And sometimes, when you're a child, where's the light? When you're a child and you're innocent, your vessel is very, sorry, I'm crumbling something. Your vessel is very vulnerable And people who have such a strong presence of whatever it is that they are possessed with, it attaches itself to your life as a child. And a lot of people don't realize that what you say and do, and this is why I'm trying to tell people, please shut up about politics, because this anger and animosity and this teaching people to bully, whether you like the president or not, that's not the issue. The issue is the energy of hatred and animosity and the bullying of poor Melania, who didn't ask for all this. No one really bullied her before. But people making fun of it, and people trying to normalize it's okay to bully people who you don't socially accept. That is infecting our children, and they are going to have to go through this too when they get to a certain spiritual understanding. They're going to go through taking on what everyone is putting out, and it becomes an addiction to kids trying to be liked and popular. And that's why social media is a horrible addiction, because you're trying to get validation, you're trying to get socially accepted, and you do whatever you can to the point where you actually lose and forget your true main purpose of being human. People have addiction to food. Certain foods have certain foods have certain ways to make you feel, and then you kind of, no parking space. I'm looking for a parking spot. Like when people have alcohol addiction, or certain foods, like people love junk food. Instead of cooking at home and being healthy, they would rather go to the fast food joint. There's people who love cheeseburgers. Like, addiction is not just drugs. Like, people forget that. There's a whole retrospect of different things that categorize, or you can put in the bucket of addiction. But I think addiction is it's a way that, and the only reason why I could relate is because I have a past, and I've shared that with many people who I have unconditional connection to, is that it didn't make me a bad person. It only allowed me to save people when I had those dark cycles. And I went to those certain situations where I would set the intention, I would show up, and there's someone about to kill themselves. And I say or do something that saves them or changes their mind. And so I started learning that somewhere, who did this to me, where I have now this ties to feeling like a relapse is coming. And then all of a sudden, when I give into saying, all right, fine, let me just go to where, because sometimes your body goes through these different weird feelings, and you feel like, ugh, I know where this is going. And then it ends up where, is that handicap? Yeah, I think I found a parking spot. Oop, I see. It's okay, it's not his fault. No, it's not your fault or his fault. Good drivers can see. There was a kid who ran in front of my car. But what parents do, they start yelling and blaming the kid and blah, 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 blah. It wasn't the kid's fault, okay? That's the problem. We make kids feel horrible about feeling free to run. It's like they should run wild and free. It's a sidewalk. But then it's the maniac people, behind these destructive vehicles that feel entitled and privileged, and that's an addiction too. People feel like, oh, I'm entitled to, my rights as a citizen. And what happens is that entitlement becomes possessive, where you don't want to listen to anybody or anything And then what happens is you start destroying your friends, family, and people around you. You guys see what addiction does, right? It's sort of like a hex or a curse, or it's a challenge. And I think sometimes beautiful people have to go through that because it's the dark night of the soul. If you don't know about dark night of the soul, I'll search something and I'll put it in my description box below. But usually people who have, I don't know if you guys agree with timeline, past lives or whatnot, but people who, I don't like to say reincarnate, people who incarnate through their bloodline, or they're transferring data from their bloodline, they keep returning back over and over and over and over and over. So usually people who have a good history of their past life basically will have a dark night of the soul in one of those conscious realities, because it's an inversion where we live now. It's an opposite where we were so used to as above in the past lives, and then currently we're in the so below, and we're trying to flip over again. Like the earth, if you guys don't know, the earth itself right now is rotating the wrong way. And the way that we need to go, the earth has to flip around. Did I just show my ATM card? Oh no. Yeah. Hopefully no one saw that. I have it in my hand. Am I cuckoo? Anyways, yeah, so long story short, the earth is yet to return to its rightful, so we're rotating like this. And once all these orbs and planetary bodies and whatever's going to happen to the earth, it's in Revelations. The earth is going to still rotate the way it is, but it's going to flip. That way it's back to counterclockwise, because I believe it's clockwise right now. So if you can relate that to the parallel of, if you do resonate with past lives, that's how you operated before. You were clockwise. Now you're counterclockwise. So everything that's happening that wasn't against you before is against you. And things that are against you now weren't like that before. So it's weird because OCD, ADD, addiction, micromanagement, people who are, what's the word, overprotective, it's all the same bucket. It's just what is contracted with the soul. Sometimes there's no way out of it. Like I was telling someone, there was a guy who channeled me, and he read my past, present, and future. And shame on him, because I know he's still watching my videos, even though he'll accuse me of the future that I don't know of yet. But he used to tell me, your future doesn't look good because your past, you keep allowing your past to stay your present. And it's going to eat you alive and destroy you slowly but surely, and you're going to die at 64 years old. And I was like, whoa, what happened to, like, I'm in charge of my destiny and I'm in charge of my future. And what's fascinating is when someone tells me something like that, it's almost like I dare to make a challenge. I dare to, but I think the serpent was using the person, or Satan, if you may, it was using his toolbox or his gift to convince me to say nothing's going to change about you, Aaron. You're always going to be surrounded by darkness, even if you're not participating or doing anything in the dark. And all the things in the dark are emerged into light, but if I'm always acting on the pureness of my heart, I think the calling of the 144,000, you're always going to be thrown into situations because your beacon will always attract people to that light. And there are people who I've always encountered who had all sorts of problems: depression, suicide, anger management, promiscuity, whatever, that are perfectly fine right now. Nothing's wrong with them. Like, they don't even see anything wrong with themselves, and they don't even recall what the problem was. I even have a friend who I talk to every day to make certain that his depression is subsided, like it's over. And I don't mind that. I think a lot of us will rather go through those hard times and put ourselves on the line so that everybody is. Like, I don't want to cry. I think I'm going to cry. But I'm one of those people, if I see that there's a building on fire, I actually would be that person to make sure everyone's out. And I would sacrifice my own life because that's what I understand I'm here for. I'm not here to be a perfect angel and a saint for everybody. I'm actually here as a sacrificial offering of the Creator. Not saying like I'm gonna die, but that's just what happens when you have these beautiful lives and you understand your soul and your purpose. Everything's trying to make you out to be a bad person, but at the same token, you have to understand when it is appropriate to know that your journey, your destiny is really about, look at that. So you guys, I always put out these messages, and there's my confirmation. Sometimes you put yourself out on the line and not understand why, not understanding what's happening to you. But you have to understand that your life has a meaning and it has a reason. And you may not know about it, but just keep being you and doing what you can and doing what you follow. Even if you feel like you're not perfect and you continuously make mistakes, that's a beautiful home all by itself. Sometimes you gotta keep making mistakes until you purge yourself out of darkness. That's what people don't understand, is until you've learned how to emerge out of some dark points in your life, you cannot be the purest of your heart. And I think people who struggle with anything, they don't realize that. They don't really know that they've been chosen to go to the furthest point. This is what Jesus said in Scripture. Many will go where I have not, or hello. Or many will go into places where most Christians will not. That is our journeys. We're talking about different things. We're trying to make sense of those outer limits. Anyways, I thank you guys so much for listening to this message. I know it was sort of kind of hard to address it, but I feel like I have to get this out of my chest because I don't want to keep going through conviction without talking about it. And I know many people are going through the same thing. Maybe your thing is prescription, Sometimes we have to go to sleep, or we have to stay awake, or we have anxiety and angst, and our bodies can't really handle all these ascension symptoms and so much distortion that society and the media and politics we're going through so much. So it's not about guilting ourselves of those things that we deem unnormal, but how can we find peace with ourselves and understanding we have to constantly go through these challenging tests? Because honestly, let's say, for example, I'm just being funny. My addiction right now is this annoying dog who barks next door. And my addiction is it's about constantly feeling the entitlement that I have to complain so that this dog can shut up, and I have to email. My sleep is very important. I'm OCD. I'm over obsessive about being right. That's my addiction. I need to be right, or this dog needs to be quiet. But the situation will never go away. Or, woo, that's a big spider. Let me go around. That was a horrible example. Let's say my circumstance is this dog that will not stop barking, right? And I'm constantly facing this problem until I learn to make peace with the situation. Then it might go away. You know, I understand it's only extracting my anger. I understand that it's frustrating me over and over and over. But then you get to a point where you're so tired of going through the same thing over and over and over, but then you bring out so much vulnerability out of yourself, so much things that you never thought you can validate. Like this dog, for example. This is a true story. This dog drives me crazy, but I'm learning that sound bothers me when I want to be silent. Hi, kitty. Hi. Want to say hi to the camera? Look, everybody, it's a kitty cat. Hi. What can you tell the people on YouTube? What do you want to tell everybody? Speaking of animals, that's fascinating. Bye, sunshine. Bye. Thank you for the confirmation. That was very random, right? Anyways, that was so adorable. To be continued on this topic. Bye, everybody.